Welcome to the Too Inquisitive podcast.
You're too inquisitive.
There's so much uproar about the coronavirus recently, especially in the BVI right now, even though we have 0 cases. Everyone is pretty upset about the government's laws about re-entry into the BVI because we're supposed to be opening back up December 1st. I'm not gonna lie, I personally don't agree with all of it. However, I'm not nearly as mad as everyone else is. I mean, we don't have the best healthcare in the BVI. Let's be real about that. But at the same time, we rely on tourists. We rely on tourism. So I think we need to kind of balance it out. Now, if you look at our laws for reentry compared to a lot of the other Caribbean islands, it's not that bad. We're not the best. We're not the worst either. We're okay. We're definitely okay. I personally don't understand why everyone is this upset. And the thing is, to majority of the people that I see that are upset about this, they're not even in the tourism industry. I have seen people in the tourism industry complain. I get it. I do understand the frustrations. I think I don't know who's advising the government, but I think they need some better advisors. I know a lot of stuff is easier said than done, which is what a lot of people complaining don't understand either. But I think we can do a little bit better. I think we can definitely do a little bit better. And we talk about this in this episode too. But this next guest, he is more so known for his accomplishments in the music industry. I'm a huge fan of his work. He's with Wolfpack Entertainment. He has produced on what I would consider a critically acclaimed classic album, at least in my opinion, The Third Pillar, done by Killa Tooma. And yeah, introducing Dontae Hodge. All right, Dontae, so what's up, man?
Man, everything good. It been a great day. I went and casted my vote today, so that was dope. Went and voted Ollie. Definitely encouraging everybody to go out and vote. Well, when will this episode come out? Because election might already be done.
This episode coming out on Monday. I'm not sure what
Monday
what the
is
date
what?
is. Let me check the calendar really quick. That would be the 2nd.
Okay, yeah. So this will be perfect. Cut out. Election day is the day after the 3rd. So
Okay.
yeah, if you're listening to this, definitely go out and vote. Make your voice heard. You know, it's an important election for obvious reasons. So definitely go out and vote. I don't care who you vote for. I mean, you can have your opinions, but at least go out and be represented is what I say.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the American election, just so
Yeah, American
everybody,
election.
yeah,
Oh yes,
is
yes. Because
listening. Because
obviously I from the BVI, but I was born here in the States and I spent all my life in Tatola, Kingarimbe. So, you know, I have that dual citizenship thing going. So yeah, I get to participate in both countries' elections, which is cool. It's great to, you know, see the contrast and have my voice be represented in both countries. So yeah, definitely if you can vote, because I know we have a lot of BVI landers who in the same boat as me, where you have passports in both places. So if you can, if you able to, if you're in the place, because obviously the world on lockdown right now. So if you have the opportunity to do so, definitely do so.
I agree. You know what's really interesting to me is in the BVI especially, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people born in the BVI or from the BVI, a lot of them have dual citizenships, triple citizenships.
Yeah.
But then when you go to like other places in the world, that's not necessarily a norm.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what makes us special. I mean, just when you look at where we geographically located, I mean, we're right there close to St. Thomas, St. John. So that makes sense. And then we use the US dollar. So it's like we're just unique in so many ways. And that's why I think we probably the most special people in the world, if you ask me. I know that's a biased opinion, but I just think that we the most special people in the world.
I share that opinion.
Yeah,
I very
man.
much do. Like people like me, I would say like in my case, it's super special because I have basically like quadruple citizenship in a sense.
Oh, From where?
Yeah, because I was born in Toronto, Canada.
Dope.
My mom is from Barbados, so I have citizenship there. My dad from Tola, and then because when you're from Tola, you automatically get citizenship in the UK also.
Right. Yeah.
So that
That's
boom,
dope. Yeah.
yeah, that's all four right there.
Yeah. Dope.
So, what part of the states you living in right now?
So I live in Atlanta, Georgia, on the south side, just south of Atlanta. I mean, we call it all Atlanta, even if you're from a small city or a city outside of Atlanta, everybody just call it Atlanta. So Atlanta, Georgia, the mecca of entertainment, which is why I'm here.
Yeah, I was just going to get into that. I was going to say, so you specifically chose Atlanta because that's the industry you're in, is the entertainment industry.
Yeah, so I've always wanted to work in the entertainment business. When I left high school, I went to St. George's Secondary. Shout out to all the St. George's kids out there, if you're listening to this. So I went to St. George's, and I knew probably from like Fort Farm that I wanted to work in the entertainment business as an audio engineer. And, I went to Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida. And then, after graduating there, and taking it serious because I graduated top of my class there, I was like, yo, I gotta move to a city where entertainment is just, well, it's popping, And the three options were really New York, LA, and Atlanta, Miami a little bit too. And I had actually got a job offer in Miami, but for what they wanted to pay me and what it would have cost to live in Miami, it didn't make sense. So Atlanta became that place because my father was already living here. The music scene was popping. I wanted to work in music. Movies were starting to come here. So I was just like, yeah, Atlanta is it. And I've been here ever since.
So how long you been in Atlanta? So it was since high school or?
No, so in high school, so I graduated from high school in 2010. I tell you my age, so 10 years ago. And then right after in 2011, I moved up to Winter Park, Florida, which is just outside of Orlando. So I went there, lived there for 2 years, got my bachelor's in recording arts, and then I moved here in 2012, because I did an accelerated program at Full Sail. So I did 4 years in 2 years. So I moved here in 2012.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I think like for me, because I want to get into the entertainment industry also, but not on the music side, more in filmmaking.
Okay.
And like I really heavy into the YouTube scene and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I actually especially this year for sure, I've been looking at leaving the BVI just to pursue that, because obviously it's a lot easier to make it big in the States. And a few of the options I was thinking about would have probably been like Atlanta, LA, and New York.
Yeah, I mean, as far as those are the best options. I feel like Atlanta, I would point the number one spot, and again, that's a biased opinion because I live here. But when you look at the cost of living, just what the entertainment business is doing, like all the movies being shot here, all the TV shows being shot here. We got podcast companies popping up left, right, center. This is where music has been popping at for the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, So, I would make a good argument that Atlanta is the best option, especially with everything going on in the world right now. I mean, New York has taken a hard hit. LA has taken a hard hit. Atlanta too, but because the business will kind of here, I feel like we ain't take as big of a hit as those other cities.
What's like taxes like in Atlanta? Because I know taxes heavy in New York and it's heavy in LA. So how is tax in Atlanta?
I don't really, I'm not the best person to ask just because I just look at taxes as it is what it is, but I know as far as compared to New York, I know taxes, because a lot of people move in here for that very reason. So I know compared to New York, taxes are good. I don't know what the contrast is to LA.
Well, LA taxes
but I
is
know
like
compared,
almost 50%.
yeah, and I know New York in like at 40 or something crazy, not too far behind that. So yeah, Atlanta would definitely be the best option out of the three in that case.
It's interesting because of like how the pandemic has gone now, and all these celebrities and stuff, it showed them that they can use the internet to kind of push a platform, and they don't necessarily have to be in specific cities anymore because the internet is so available now. You see a lot of
Yeah.
celebrities now leaving Los Angeles because they're like, why am I staying in Los Angeles to deal with all of this tax when I
Mm-hmm.
could move to a different state? Like Joe Rogan, for example, just left Los Angeles. He just moved to Texas. And he said like
Right.
one of his primary reasons was just because tax.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because I know Dallas right now is if you are a business person and you're in that tax bracket where like the Joe Rogans of the world, right? Dallas looks so appealing because of what they do with their taxes. I know so many businesses probably are looking at Dallas, and I know that's why Joe Rogan moved there because, obviously he just had his big Spotify deal, so why not? I mean, the goal is always to keep as much. Yes, you want to pay taxes, just you want to be a good citizen, but I feel like sometimes some of the tax law could be a bit excessive, so you know why pay more when you could pay less?
True. All right, so let's talk about you specifically in the entertainment
Okay.
industry. So I know you with Wolfpack Entertainment,
Yes.
and I've been familiar with you guys mostly through following you and following Tuma.
Yeah.
So you say you were doing the engineering, right? So
Yes.
that's what you primarily do on the team.
Okay, so to talk about Wolfpack, I think I gotta go back a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
sure, go ahead.
um, like I said, I went to St. George's and we were all friends in high school, So Killa went to St. George's, J Cav, who's another part of the team, an integral part of the team, he also went to St. George's. Sham, who is a part of the team, he went to St. George's, our whole circle, we were kind of in high school together and we kind of all start doing music together, the whole rap group scene. We kind of start doing that together. And when I went to Full Sail, Killa and Jacav were already in Orlando. Jacav were going to Full Sail also, and Killa were going to school up there same way. So naturally, because we had already know each other, we start, hanging out together, and we just kind of build a brotherhood, and we just start, just chilling together on a weekly basis. Sometimes a few times a week we'll be hanging by somebody's apartment, just vibing, and being so young, fresh out of high school, having all that freedom, we all driving, like that was like just such a fun time. And what happened around that time is the Hangover movie had come out, the first one, and it had a moment in the movie where they were like, "We're the Wolf Pack" or something like that. I think
Yeah,
the big guy had said something like that,
yeah, I
and
remember.
we were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, Wolf Pack, yeah, Wolf Pack," and we were kind of all comparing each other to like that circle of friends, and like we were like, "Oh, you just like him, you just like him," and then we just kind of roll with that. And we were like, "Yeah, we're the Wolf Pack," and then Killer hadn't been doing music for a while, and Jacav and him were roommates, and Jacav I kind of get him into doing music. And one day, me and Jacav were talking as we usually do. That's my brother. Like that's. I mean, we are brothers, but over the years, me and Jacav have built like a special friendship. And just talking like we normally do. And we were like, yo, we should start a company. Like, we see the business, we see how things aren't necessarily done the right way. We were like, let's start a business and do things the right way, do things our own way. We sitting here waiting for opportunities. Let's create our own opportunity. And then we were like, well, what we should call it? We were like, wait, Wolf Pack. We've been calling ourselves the Wolf Pack for however long. We were like, yeah, Wolf Pack Entertainment. And we had shoot the idea to Killer. He had just put out his mixtape 96 like a year or two prior to that, so he was kind of back in the swing of things. We shoot the idea to him and we're like, yo dog, like this is what we want to do, we should do this thing together, like you could become a part of the business, like let's do this thing and let's do this thing the right way, let's create a movement. He said yes, and the rest has been history. We put out his first project, The Third Pillar, 3 years ago. We wrapping up his last project. I mean, the project is done recorded, so we just kind of putting the finishing touches on it, hoping to get it out before the end of the year. So, it's been a cool ride. It's been a learning experience. It's been dope. And as far as what I do, we own the company, so we are the business guys, and then we're also the technical guys. So Jake Cav and I, we engineer. So I'm a recording engineer, mixing engineer. I record podcasts, I record voiceovers, you name it, live sound, I do it. Same with Jake Cav, you know, he's had his fair share of recording, you know, does a lot of mixing. So we kind of put together our technical minds and mix and record the projects. And then, you know, we also figure out the business. So how we gonna market the project, how we gonna, you know, what a video is gonna look like, what the artwork gonna look like, you know, how do we assemble a team to get this to the right people and get this to as many ears as possible. So, you know, we are a 3-person team, you know, and I think for 3 people figuring it out, we kind of do well. We kind of make it look like it's more of us, but it's really only 3 of us. And of course, we have the extended circle, but as far as the people who are doing it and running the business on a daily basis, it's just 3 of us. So, yeah, that's that. That's the long version of that.
That's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
So besides recording music and besides having Killa as an artist, what else does Wolfpack Entertainment have under their belt? What anything else that you guys do specifically? I know you just mentioned like you were recording podcasts and that kind of stuff. So like what everything else are you guys doing?
Yeah, so we have a few artists that we work with. So there's Trav P.
Okay,
and then we have
familiar with him.
Yeah, Trav P, really dope. You know, he kind of more in his developmental stage, so we just kind of, you know, working with him to develop him before we really present him to the wall on that stage, you know. And then we have another artist. We ain't really announced our partnership with him yet, but we kind of working with him. We had Pulse VI, which was a radio show that we had kind of pulled back on. We had that going for a while, but you know, we wanted to kind of
remember that.
We wanted to kind of change the format for it, and then kind of everything happened, and now the world in kind of a disarray. But we're definitely looking forward to bringing Pulse VI back, and we just want to be involved in entertainment in all aspects. So we aren't opposed to, you know, producing podcasts, you know, stuff like that. We're always looking. But we have to be mindful because we're a small team, so there's only so much that we could do before it's too much for all of us to handle. But you know,
don't want to bite off more than you could chew.
Right, yeah, and we've had to learn that. We've had to learn that the hard way in some ways, where it was like we wanted to do this, we wanted to do that, but then it's like it's only 3 of us. You know, we hope to expand the team, but even that we have to be strategic about that. So before we get to that place where we have a team where we could delegate a bunch of stuff, we just have to be careful of how much we put on the plate, because we don't want to have a potential artist, a potential gem in our midst that we're working with, but because we had the time and attention to give them the time and attention they deserve, we fumble the bag on that gem. So, you know, yeah.
All right. Okay, so now let's get more into the music side of things. So I would assume on Killa's last project, the Third Pillar, you probably handled a lot of the engineering on that specific project, or?
Yeah, so yeah, me and Jacob, we handle all the engineering. We don't outsource any engineering. So everything that's recorded, everything that's mixed is the 2 of us. You know, we definitely hope that in the near future we could bring somebody on to kind of help us with some of that, you know, so that we could handle more of the business and on all the other stuff that we have to handle. But you know, as far as all the engineering goes, is us. You know, we just had a trip here. They came to Atlanta a few weeks ago. We were putting a few final touches on the album, you know, doing some referencing, and it's us, you know, and I like it that way, you know, because we definitely have a rapport together. We have a sound, we have a way that we work. So, you know, and that's what we love to do. That we love. I mean, we engineers, we nerds at heart, you know, like. Even right now, you tell me we're doing this interview, I have a whole mic set up, you know, I have it running through a preamp, you know what I'm saying? Like, we just nods at the engineering stuff. This is what we love. So I think no matter how far into the business we go, we'll always have our hands in the engineering in some way.
Yeah, I can relate, but on the video aspect to it instead. So did you work on 96 also, or no?
Yes, so 96, it was a little bit different how the team was set up. So at the time that 96 came out, Jacob was mostly Killa engineer. So I was a part of the team, but it was more like almost like a consultation type thing. So I might tell J Cav like, yo, change this in the mix, or what if we tried this? And then as we built and we were like, Jacoy or Killer, he was like, well, we got two dope engineers. Like I want Bota in mixing. He was like, I love how Bota y'all are engineer and do y'all thing. So how we could do this? So what we end up doing is we were like, okay, Mike, J-Cab, you're gonna deal with all the vocals, Dontae dance, you're gonna deal with the beats, and that's how we would do it. So I'd mix the beats and J-Cab to mix the vocals, and we'd kind of come together and put everything together, and it'd be a mix done by both of us, and that seems to work. People love the sound of the third pillar. I think it's a sonically amazing album. I mean, we've grown so much since then, so of course there's stuff we would have done different. But for where we were at that time, I think it was so perfect, so clean. And I look forward to people hearing this next one because the sonics on this one is insane.
Well, for me, the third pillar, I consider it a classic. Like that album to me is like
Appreciate that.
is one of the very few albums in this wall, and I could probably count them on my hand. It's like Eminem, Recovery, the Marshall Mathers LP2, Kanye West, Yeezus, and probably a few other albums. Is albums I could literally start from song number 1 and listen straight through to the complete end. And the third pillar is definitely analysis. And even
Wow.
I wouldn't even say like I don't know why, but we have this thing where people call like VI music, like VI rap or whatever, right?
Yeah.
When I hear the third pillar, I don't consider that VI rap. To me, that's just rap. That's hip hop. And I remember
Yeah.
that last year when I was in Barbados, a lot of my cousins, they are some hip hop fans also, and I played them the album, and they were like, "Yo, this is nice."
Real. Yeah, no, that's love, man. And, we appreciate being mentioned in such amazing company. I mean, when we make music, we try to create a body of work. We pride ourselves, and we know the fans hate this about us, but this is just who we are. We pride ourselves on being, we create bodies of work. We create art, so stuff that's meant to be consumed as a whole thing. So when we created the third pillar, it was a story. It's a very specific story. Yeah, there's the music, a song good, you could turn up to it, you could vibe to it, you could sing the little catchy lyrics. But if you really listen to it, there's a story being told there that starts at track 1 and ends at Apollo Mission. So the same thing with this next project is a very specific story, and we have that same mindset of you of where we create rap music. Yes, we rap with an accent, but reggae is accepted by the wall, dancehall is accepted by the wall. So why should we feel that we need to rap in any accent other than our own? No. All music could be accepted, just like how Drake the have popcorn on records. Drake the upon his Jamaican accent, his fake Jamaican accent, whatever the case may be. So we truly believe that where Virgin Islands music is right now, we have the best opportunity to take the industry by storm and say, hey, listen to this, unchanged. This is who we are. And, the people going to sing it just like how they sing popcorn. They might not understand all the lingo, but they'll still be singing it. So,
I
yeah.
agree. Walk me through the thought process, like or the creative process, the differences between coming up with 96
Okay.
and coming up with the third pillar. What was it
Okay.
like doing? Because I know you guys made them at two completely different times, and
Yeah.
obviously, listen to the third pillar, you could see that you guys definitely matured a lot more. You became more experienced. The sound is much cleaner, more well put together. So, like, walk
Right.
me through the different.
So, okay, so for the third pillar, we just wanted to have fun. I saying like we weren't thinking about we weren't thinking about the entertainment business, the music business. We were just like, yo, let's put together something dope for the people. And, Killer hadn't put anything in a while. He always had this, he has always been fascinated with like, just the nuances of Virgin Islands culture that nobody would talk about, right? And he just wanted to tell a story about the whole 96 era. And, we just wanted to put together this motion picture that people can listen to, and kind of go along on this story where it's like there's the skits. It's almost like you are a passenger going throughout this story of 96 where there's, all this stuff happening. We know about some of the stories. We don't have to talk about some of the stories, but we know about some of the stories, some of the stuff happening. And, we just wanted to create something unique. We wanted to cater to his core audience at that time. They were very trap heavy, very street oriented. So we wanted to create something for them people, but it ended up a lot more people than we expected liked it. There were women who liked it. All types of people, politicians liked it. All types of people loved 96. And then for the third pillar, we were like, okay, we've kind of grown from just the trap stuff. We ain't necessarily we cool dudes, we good dudes. We ain't want to seem like we're promoting negativity. Even though it's a specific story that had to be told, but we don't want to seem like we're promoting negativity. So we were like, how do we expand upon that story? And all of this is, by the way, how this the status Killa to come up with a concept, and it's our jobs as the engineers and producers to kind of help him put the picture together. So he come in with all the elements, and we saying, oh, we could put this here, you could do this here. So shout out to his great and amazing mind, first and foremost. All credit to him always. So he came to us and he was like, yo, I got this concept, the third pillar, right? Cause the BVI, we got two main pillars. We have the financial pillar, we have the tourism pillar, right? But then there's the one pillar that nobody don't ever talk about, that we all know about in the BVI.
Yeah.
We all know about it, but nobody don't ever talk about it. So he was like, let's talk about that. Let's tie in the other pillars, but let's talk about that, and let's continue the story from 96 from a different perspective. So that was like Offshore is one of my favorite songs on the project, because I feel like it's the song that glues the project together, because it's playing on the financial services industry, it's playing on the tourism industry, and it's playing on the third pillar. And we just wanted to tell that story. We wanted to tell the story of, hey, this is a thing where we're from. This is a part of our culture. Literally, in some ways, the Virgin Islands was built upon this thing. So we told that story, but then we also wanted to make sure we paint in the nuances. Like, even though, yes, that's a part of who we are, in a lot of ways, you can't get to where you might want to go, whether that's, experiencing life, having your freedom, all of this stuff. There's a limit to where that lifestyle would get you. And, that's where, we Apollo mission kind of ended the project, and that was like taken off, no pun intended, to like another train of thinking, another like way of thinking, another perspective, to where, yeah, there's a street life, yeah, there's certain opportunities, you could get certain things in the streets, but there's repercussions for that. So how do we get to those same things in a more productive way, to where you might not lose your life, your freedom, and what's not? And then that leads us to this next project, which is going to be, it almost feels like a 3-part story. There was 96, there was a third pillar, and now there's this. And I feel like people are really, really, really going to love this project, because there's something for everybody. On the last project, people was like, women specifically, they were like, yo, we want love songs, we want music for us. We addressed that. We addressed, so many things. So people are really, really going to enjoy this project, and just the growth, and just the progression of the story, and just his maturity. He's grown so much. He's lived so much in the last 3 years. Hurricane Irma happened. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
And I look forward to the people really digging into that. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. It definitely does. Based off of the success from the third pillar, because like you said, everybody loves the third pillar.
Yeah.
Based off of the success for the third pillar, did you guys feel any pressure to have to come back? Like you need a lot, because like the third pillar was a string of hits. The whole album is basically hits. Did you guys feel the need to duplicate that success with this up and coming project that you guys working on?
I could only speak from my perspective. because I'm sure they would have different answers, but my perspective would be that no, we don't feel that pressure because we just have a way of, and maybe this is the stubbornness in us. But we just kind of do what we want to do. We kind of do our thing, and that's kind of the dope part about us owning our own company, us putting out the music on our own, us not having to depend on anybody. We kind of set our own pace. We know the fans don't like that we take so long, so we definitely want to be better at that going forward and not taking so long to put out music. But at the same time, he has to live, he has to grow for the music to be what they like. So we really didn't feel any pressure because we did just make music for where we at right now, and that's kind of what's worked. That's literally, people appraise like songs like like Street Legends and Traptola, but that was just a time capsule of how he was feeling in that moment. So the music that he's making right now is the same thing. It's a time capsule for how he feel in this season of his life. So no pressure, man, no pressure. The only thing that I just sometimes think about is his original core fan base, the street guys, because we just don't make as much as the music anymore, or not as gritty as we used to. We used to make like really gritty street music, really
It's
gritty.
definitely a more polished
Yeah, it's a
version
lot
to
more
it now, for sure.
polished, a lot more double entendres. Like he playing with words to where it could come across to. It's like Traptola was a trap song, but it's like he played with it to where it could kind of play on the radio also if it had to. So sometimes I do wonder about that part of the fan base, but what I notice is that part of the fan base has grown with us. So that the percentage of people who want him to make that gritty stuff is very small because a lot of the people have grown with us and now they want to hear a more mature Killa Tooma. So we love that.
I actually enjoy both sides because there's days I'll still put on the disc records what he had with Pope D, God rest his
Yeah.
soul.
Rest in peace to Pope D, a
Rest in
legend.
peace to Pope D, another legend, yeah. And but at the same time too, I'll still turn around right after that and put on the third pillar. So it's
Yeah.
like there's a place in my heart for both. The reason why I like Tuma is because even back then, his word play I feel was a little bit more ahead of the game in terms of
Yeah.
a lot of VI artists.
For sure.
A lot of
for
things
sure.
he gonna say, and it's very apparent on the third pillar. Like it's still like how old is the third pillar right now?
It's 3 years. So June
years.
30th, what was 3 years? Yeah.
And I'm too sure I could listen to this album again, and it's something that I'll only now catch on to and be like, okay. Like, like it always have like those, like you have to listen. And that's the great thing about classics. You have to listen to them over and over and over so you could fully understand. Because when you listen to it the first time, you say, yeah, man, it's a good piece of work, but you might miss some stuff.
Yeah. And that's what we aim to do. That's what we aim to do, because when I think about my favorite classic albums, like I'm a huge Jay-Z fan, and I feel like every time I listen to a classic Jay-Z album, is almost like every time I listen, I'm a little bit more mature than I was when I listened the last time. So it's like my perspective just picks up something differently, and that's kind of what we aim to do too. So I appreciate you saying that because that's definitely part of the goal.
I think you guys definitely accomplishing it so far. And like I said, the third pillar, to me, lyrically, the way he was able to tell the stories and stuff, it's like you could almost compare it to like a J. Cole.
Yeah. Yeah. And we are fans. We are huge fans of the J. Coles, the Kendricks. Those are the people who we study, because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, we know we have a long way to go before we on that level. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that's the type of company we want to be mentioned in as far as lyricism, telling stories, evoking emotions, and creating classic bodies of work.
Mm-hmm. So, like you were saying, like Atlanta has become kind of like the hot spot for like the hottest music. Definitely within the last 5 years, you could even argue and say within the last 10 years, because you have people like Future and Young Thug. But those people, they make a specific type of music and kind of bred what we call now like the mumble age era.
Right.
But Tooma now, even though he might be in that same age group, you guys seem to be sticking to more classic old, like the old school style of rap, of like the storytelling and stuff. Have you guys ever this like thought about moving into that mumble kind of style? Or
I mean, that's a great question. I think it's a fair question. But we have accepted who we are. We have accepted who we are. We don't ever like we have songs that we've made that probably sung more radio-y, but what's funny is we typically gravitate away from those songs. Like a lot of those songs just sitting in our Dropbox, because we've just kind of accepted who we are in the music that we make, and we confident in it. We confident in the fact that, at some point this music is going to catch and everybody is going to want to have our sound. So why should we chase their sound when we could get our own song popping and then they're going to have to come to us to get what we have? We've seen it happen over and over again with Caribbean culture. So yeah, that's just how we approach it, And even radios, like we don't even make songs for the radio necessarily. We just kind of make the music, and then after it done, we might say, oh, this song like something that could be on the radio, but we didn't go into the studio with the intentions of, oh, we're gonna make a radio song. Nah, that's just not how we work. We all about the organics, and we all about, just feeding the fans. And once we cater to that, that'll grow and we'll get where we're supposed to be.
I would assume right now the fan base is predominantly the biggest in the Virgin Islands, right?
Yes, definitely the biggest in the Virgin Islands. We do look at our analytics a lot, and we are all over the place, but definitely the biggest in the Virgin Islands. But we are definitely working to change that. But we all over the Caribbean, like, we popping in places we didn't even know, like Antigua and Anguilla, of course, the U.S. Virgin Islands. We got listeners in St. Kitts all over the Caribbean. Actually, a big percentage of our numbers is like largely other Caribbean countries also. So one thing we're trying to focus on with this new project is just dipping into our region a little bit more. I think the mistake that we all make as artists and entertainers out of the Virgin Islands is thinking that we have to pop in America. And I think it's a mistake. I started to realize I think that train of thinking is a mistake, because we have a whole region. We have a whole Caribbean region of people who would probably gravitate towards our music quicker than America would gravitate towards our music. And that's why you look at it, there's dancehall artists that pop in because they got popping in the region first. There's reggae artists that popping because they got popping in the region first. So it's just for us to make our own hip hop and rap pop within the region. So we definitely look forward to focusing on that and really using those analytics to kind of map to different countries and hopefully travel to some of these countries to promote this next project.
Have you guys tried looking into like promoting in like West Africa and those kind of places?
We've talked about it. We haven't looked into it yet, but that's a good point too. Even West Africa, because our cultures have so many similarities. So, that's probably one of them that gonna be on our list, especially now in the digital era, and also easy to like make ads specific to certain places. We definitely want to take advantage of some of that. So definitely, yeah, West Africa is definitely one we'll add to the list. Because Afrobeats is popping right now. And again, there's just similarities to Afro beats and certain dancehall music, certain reggae music. Like we share elements or cadences, even in the hip hop, how we flow on beats or cadences. A lot of that come from our African roots. So got to tap into that.
Definitely. So like what's the feedback right now in Atlanta? Like is the music popping in Atlanta itself too?
So I wouldn't say the music is popping in Atlanta, to be honest. We have a large group of Virgin Islands people that live here in Atlanta that are big fans of the music. We have relationship with a few DJs. I have my industry friends who I've played the music for. So far, everybody who I play the music for, every DJ that we give the music to, the feedback is always good. So I think our job now is to build that base up here, because that was one thing I would say we could have done better with the third pillar, was kind of pushing it here in the States a little bit more.
Yeah, because I honestly feel like the third pillar is a very marketable album.
I think so
A
too.
very international wise marketable album.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that, because after the third pillar, he had two shows. He had one show here in Atlanta when we had come up, and then it was a show called Coast to Coast, and then he had one in Orlando. So when we first did the first one, we had what song we had performed? Cuban Links, and we realized that Cuban Links, it was a little too far for them to kind of get a grasp of what it was about. So then for the second show, we had to do Traptola, because we figure it got a bounce to it. Everybody could basically understand what he's saying. And if you don't understand what he's saying, you can at least rock to the chorus enough to catch the vibe. So for that second show, we did a lot better with Traptola. So, that's kind of part of the learning process too. Seeing, keep doing what we're doing, but seeing what songs we need to market in or push in one market, because what we might push in the Caribbean region might be different from what we need to push here in the States, just because they're gonna be drawn to different things for different obvious reasons. You check. So
very much.
that's part of the learning experience. But like I always tell everybody, the most beautiful part about what we're doing with Wolfpack is we learning as we go. We learning as we go, and we getting better with every project. We getting better with every move that we make. Just building teams, putting teams around projects, because we don't have a huge team. When we have a project that we need to put, we could justify that budget to kind of put a team around a project. So we're just getting better at putting those pieces together.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How soon you guys looking to release the new project?
Before the year is up. So I mean,
that soon.
Yeah, we just because of the content of the project, we feel like it needs to come out this year. So we're really pushing hard to get this thing out before the year is out. Obviously we just got some heartbreaking news about the opening of our country.
Yeah. We're gonna get into that next.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll get into that. But of course, that affects how we move a little bit, because a large part of how we roll out a project has to do with home, because home is home. So, that affects us a little bit. So we have to think about that and consider that now.
So did you guys have a date you were looking at before, and then this kind of mess it up, or?
We have a date in the back of our minds. It's that date might change depending on how the next 2 weeks go, because we have lots of things that we need to wrap up and get done in the next 2 weeks. So we have a date that we kind of toying with in the back of our minds, but now we have to consider how that would look, if we needed to travel home to market the project, how that would look. We have to consider a lot of things. So, unfortunately, we living in crazy and trying times. So, we just want to do our best, because at the same time, while we want to make sure we put the project up the right way, we also realize that people need the music. The third pillar, we've gotten so many comments and messages about how the third pillar helped people get through the devastation of Hurricane Irma and Maria. So, we want to give people music to help them get through what we're going through right now, because we all need that escape. So
I agree.
We're thinking about that too and considering that.
Makes a lot of sense. All right. Yeah. So before we start touching on local politics and issues and stuff, I want to get into the business side of the business, basically.
Okay.
You guys, is the business right now basically financing itself right now? Are you guys to the point where you are doing this full time, or is this still what you would say a side hustle?
Great question. I don't know that anybody has ever asked us that, so great question. No, we all work full-time jobs. So, it's self-financed. That's the good part. We all finance the business and the music. The catalog, the small catalog that we have helps finance the business too. Um, but yeah, it's we all, and that's kind of the good and hard part, because we all sometimes get so caught up in our own everyday lives. I mean, I'd be doing a billion things. I have a full-time job at a studio, and then all the side projects that I also to be working on. So, life could get crazy, but at least we have the means to support the business to where we don't need, excuse me, we don't need to look for any investors. I mean, if investors come along and they make sense, we'll probably look at considering that. But for right now, we kind of self-sufficient, and we hope to keep it that way, just because we like kind of being able to do things on all time, all way, not having to worry about paying anybody back, or paying a lender back, or whatever investor back. So yeah, we all work full-time job. We hope to, in the near future, to be able to fire our bosses. But for right now, this is kind of where it is, and we just rolling with the punches.
That's good though. At least it seems things on the right path, and hopefully, pretty soon things take off,
Yeah,
especially with
I
this new project.
confident that, in the next 3 years, we could all have fired our bosses. 3 years or less. That's the time I'm giving us.
That's good, man. That's good. All right then. So okay, let's get into the local politics. Well, actually, first before we get into local politics, how has the pandemic been affecting you personally?
So I'm extremely blessed. I just want to start by saying that, I'm extremely blessed, and I'm thankful for all my blessings, because so many people have lost jobs, have been struggling throughout this pandemic. And I've been in the fortunate position to where I've been working the whole time. I guess that's a blessing and a curse. The blessing is I've been working the whole time. The curse is I've been working the whole time, and I've been upside the whole time.
Yeah.
But I actually started this full-time position at the studio, like, literally in March. So the pandemic starts to get bad in March, and I started this full-time position in March, as head engineer at the studio. I had been at the studio for some years, but they finally brought me on full time. So that was a blessing, because, typically I'm doing a lot of freelance work, doing a lot of traveling. I travel to record podcasts, which I was doing a lot of, like, right before this. I just came from LA and New York recording a podcast for Spotify with Dion von Furstenberg, and that was great. Got to meet some great people. And right when this thing hit and the freelance work dried up, I had this full-time position at the studio, and I kind of just held the studio down throughout the pandemic, and it kind of worked out. So, I mean, of course, I have my freelance work has dried up, so I haven't been doing a whole bunch of freelance stuff. I mean, I've been mixing music, so that's been dope, but haven't been doing a lot of podcast recording or anything like that. So that's dried up. But at the same time, I have this full-time position. I've been, investing in the team at the studio, figuring out some processes at the studio, making sure our rooms are up to par. So that's been dope. I've been enjoying that, and I'm thankful for that. I mean, I am ready for a break. I am ready to come home, but I'm thankful, man.
That's good. It's good that things, because like even some people like me, for example, we necessarily haven't lost our jobs, but we still had to take
Right.
like big pay cuts and stuff. So like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
work at the airport here in Anigada, and
Okay.
airport authority since what was it, June, July, they basically cut everybody pay in half.
Whew. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were supposed to get our regular pay back again in September, because
Hmm.
I think that was the original plan for the BVI to open back up in September. But
Yeah.
then that spike of cases happened, and then we went back
All
into
right.
lockdown, and then they said, okay, well, December. And the airport authority said, well, since we're not opening back up, then y'all just gonna have to keep this half pay until December also.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
been some months now that we walk in our half pay, which kind of sucks. But I mean, it's still better than a lot of the people that have completely lost their jobs.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like, it's almost like, yeah, it's half pay, but then, and that's how I've been looking at my situation too, because obviously, if I was still freelancing, I would be making a lot more money. But at the same time, I comfortable. I'm thankful. Things are going well. So, I just try to keep my mindset in that place of gratitude. and just look at the positive and, be prayerful for the people who aren't as fortunate as me so that their situation could hopefully work itself out sooner rather than later.
How has life changed much for you since the pandemic? Like your usual way of life and
Yeah, a lot actually, because I used to be a gym rat, like in the gym 5 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week. Obviously that changed. I had to start working out from home, which it was hard for me to get consistent with that just because I'm used to like weights and stuff. So that was tough. I was traveling. I like to start the year. I don't think I was ever here in Atlanta for longer than 2 weeks. I was always out somewhere between LA and New York. I came home in February. 'Cause Killa had a show. So yeah, just kind of everywhere. So that was tough because I am not used to being in the state for this long. So I kind of have cabin fever right now, where I just like I need to get out of Georgia. So that's been tough. You know, yeah, and just like my life hasn't been this structured in a long time, which is boring to me. Like I hate like doing the same thing every single day. Wake up, go to the studio. Again, I'm thankful, don't get it twisted. I'm thankful for the job, but I'm so used to like having something else going on. Like I'm so used to being here this week, then in like 2 weeks I might be going to New York. Then I might be in Orlando the week after that. Then I might be going to LA, so that's the life I like to live. I love traveling, I love airports, you know, and I'm really, really, really missing that.
yeah, I can definitely relate. I myself, well, in a sense, like I like being home, but I also like
Hmm.
adventure.
Yeah.
And I think we in Anegada, especially, we extremely blessed in that sense because other than the lockdowns, life hasn't changed at all pretty much for us. Because like Anegada is a really small island with a super small population. Everybody know everybody, and it's
Hmm.
like even here we don't even really like wear masks in public or anything unless you go into like a store or a business because it's required by law.
Right.
But other
Right.
than that, it's like hardly you'll see anybody wearing masks and stuff. Like it's pretty much regular life.
Okay.
And I
Yo, I just want to say, right, I love it in Anigada. I only been to Anigada once. That was last year
oh
or the year
that kind
before.
of recent, man.
Yeah, and yo, I had such a good time. Like I was like I haven't been at peace like the peace I felt in Anigada in a long time. Like I went down to what a hotel called
ABC Anegada Beach Club.
ABC. Yeah, we went to
Mm-hmm.
ABC just down there on the beach. Like yo, like Anigada is a vibe, man. Like I can't believe that was my first time going to Anigada, but I will be back next time I come home. I trying to come Anigada. Well, it gonna depend on what the world looking like, I guess. But man, I love Anigada, man.
Yeah, man. When you reach, we
Shout
could
out to
link up for
Anigada.
sure.
Yeah.
Did you go horseback riding and stuff when you were here?
I didn't go horseback riding. What did we do? Honestly we didn't do much. We drive one of the mokes around, so that was
Oh
cool.
yeah, that's my
Um
father own actually.
okay, yeah, dope. So yeah, we rent one of those. We wanted to do the conch shell island thing, but I think no boats were going out or something. Something happened and we couldn't do that. So it was just really just chilling. Like we were just chilling. But I just love the secluded feeling, like the calm. Man, like it's just a vibe. So I definitely coming back over to do all that stuff. I want to see the conch shell island.
Oh yeah,
I want
that's
to do the
I always
horseback
tell
riding.
people. I always tell people Kangsha Island is like something you'll never see anywhere else
Yeah,
in the world.
yeah,
It's
definitely gotta
like
see that.
even me, like I grew up seeing it.
Yeah.
Like almost every weekend, me and my friends would just go out on our boats and we'll just go fishing or swimming or just for the fun of it. So like we grew up watching Conch Island.
Yeah.
And even to this day, when like I was on the water, when it was last week, me and my friend went fishing, and like every time I see it, it's still something amazing, something to behold.
Yeah, no. When I see pictures, I'd be like, yo, first of all, how have I never been? But I can't wait to. That gonna be good to do that post pandemic though. Because I
Oh
feel
yeah,
like I gonna have a
definitely,
different appreciation and gratitude for seeing that.
definitely, definitely. Even lockdown even gave me a special appreciation for nature in general, cause like especially how paychecks and stuff being cut and things. It was like, and I also just had I had a newborn baby too right
Oh,
before lockdown.
congrats.
Yeah, thanks. So like
Yeah.
my daughter was born on a Wednesday.
Okay.
Like the next Friday we went into lockdown.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my birthday was like the day after or something like that too. So like
Yeah.
I spent all that through lockdown, but it was I still got the appreciation for it too though, because me and my friend we would go fishing almost every day, and that's pretty much like how we were feeding our families.
Gotcha.
Because in Anigada, like we don't have no supermarkets or anything like that, so like stuff does run out. And then even though we have like the little stores here, it's kind of expensive to shop here, because
Gotcha.
like picture everything in Tatola is already expensive, and then the stores from here have to buy their stuff from Tatola and then still have to pay the shipping from Tatola to Anigada. So and then they still have to make their profit on it too.
Right. Yeah. That's
So
crazy.
if you pay for something $5 in Tatola, you can probably pay like $12 for it in Anigada.
That's wild.
So like that's how we were feeding our families. We would go fishing.
Yeah.
And like all that stuff like put like a special appreciation for nature back into my heart for sure.
Yeah, even me, man. I have a special appreciation for home now, that I literally, because I used to be able to come home. I mean, like last year I was home so many times, I could just get up and come home, but no, I can't. And it's like, yo, I also miss home. I also miss home.
I definitely understand. Oh, and then when you do the horseback riding, let me know too, because the horses are actually my mom's.
Okay. I running all the business over there.
Yeah, connected like that over here. So okay, now let's get into the politics. Obviously, you know about we have to do the 4 days quarantine when you come. You're supposed to provide a test that you took within 5 days of traveling beforehand, and then you have to take a test when you reach. You got, I think, what is it, like after the first 4 days when you're here, you take the test.
Yeah,
And then
I think so.
another test again after those 4 days.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on it? And do you have any suggestions on what the government could do differently?
Yeah, so it's tough. I'd always say I take my hats off to leaders everywhere right now, because it's a tough time to be a leader. So I don't want to act like those are easy shoes to fill. So first of all, I want to start up by shouting out the government and Andrew Fai, because for the most part, I think we've done a great job as a country, handling this thing.
I agree. Oh, keep in mind also that majority of the leaders in right now are first-time leaders.
And that's a great point. That's a great point.
It's pretty much Andrew Fai is pretty much like the only seasoned person there on the team right now.
And I think that's important to mention, because I mean, imagine your first go around and it's like boom, pandemic,
the world ends.
Yeah, basically. So that's crazy. So shout out to them, because I don't want to start giving my opinion without first giving them the flowers that they deserve. But I feel like with this pandemic, and my opinion of this has changed as things have progressed, but I feel like we're going to look back at this pandemic and say that it wasn't as bad as we were making it out to be. No, don't get twisted. We have lost people, and that's not to be taken for granted. One loss is too much, so that's not to be taken for granted. However, I feel like you still have to look at the whole picture, and the whole picture is showing that the death percentage is extremely, extremely small compared to the cases. So I just feel like when considering that, we just have to do better at balancing the people and the economy. Now, will the people take more presidents as they should? Yes. But I feel like we have to strike that balance. And I feel like if we're telling people, hey, we opening up the country, BVI love, and then it's like BVI love, but you have to do this, 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 you have to pay for this, you have to pay for this, you have to pay for this. It's almost like, do you really want people to come? And I don't have a good understanding of what other Caribbean countries are doing, so I won't speak to that. But I feel like there has to be a better example of how it could be done out there, because I don't feel like this is a great way to do things. Because if I'm a tourist you're already paying whatever to get there. If like if you're flying Delta, for example, you already know what that ticket gonna look like. And then now you gotta go through. You can't come through the seaport, so you gotta go through Puerto Rico. So you already going out of your way a little bit than you normally might. So you paying for that. You gotta pay for lodging. You gotta pay for the test them. You already almost a week into your vacation and you ain't really see nothing yet because of these protocols. And while I agree that we need to be safe, yes, 100%, it's like we have to find that balance or find a way to where it's like, yeah, we're being safe, yeah, we're taking the necessary precautions, but we ain't turning people off from coming. And so I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna go back to the drawing board. I don't know. I know they start the whole youth coalition. I don't know if they get a say in that. I don't know how that works, but I feel like they should go back to the drawing board, man. I just feel like there has to, or maybe they need to talk to different Caribbean countries, seek advice from different leaders of different countries on how they've done things, because I could be wrong. I don't think that this is the way every Caribbean country is doing it.
Actually, to be honest, based on a lot of the ones I've seen,
Yeah.
the BVI, we kind of in the middle.
Okay.
Like it has, let me put it this way, right? It have countries like the way how majority of other countries go in. All the countries first and foremost pretty much doing similar things, right?
Okay.
But it has worked for some countries and it hasn't worked for other countries. It's like pretty much hit or miss for a lot of countries. It have some countries now going back into lockdowns because their cases spiked. And then they have other countries kind of pretty much free and open.
Okay.
The BVI, to me, like where we rank on it, how our government has handled it, we just okay, if that makes sense, Okay. Like we ain't bad, but we ain't horrible, we ain't good, we ain't great neither, we just okay.
Okay.
In a sense. I think like, for example, like Anguilla or the Cayman Islands, and I forgot there's a few others, but like I remember seeing one country, theirs was like 14 days quarantine.
Wow.
I saw another one was 27 days. And then there was other ones that were similar to ours, but it was 5 days quarantine.
Okay.
And you had to wear like a wristband that tracks you.
Okay.
For like a week or two, and then you still had to do another test. So like our rules are actually pretty much they're not none of the countries have like exact same rules, but they're kind of in line in a sense.
Well, maybe from that perspective, maybe ours aren't that bad. Maybe we are just tripping a little bit. Maybe ours aren't as bad as we making it out to be.
That's kind of my position on it. Actually, I feel like I don't totally 100% agree with everything, right? But I feel like it's not that bad. Okay. Like it could be a lot worse.
That's true. No,
and then
for sure.
Also too, I like to try and look at it from both ends. So like, I see a lot of people complaining that it's only the airports, only the airport that's going to be open at first, right, and not the seaports.
Right.
And I completely understand why people will complain, because the airport is expensive to travel through.
Right.
Let's be real, Terrence. Biletsom International Airport is not the prettiest, nicest, well put together or organized airport in the Caribbean. And that's my employers. But yeah, it's not that nice. Nobody don't want to really see the airport. And then it's almost, I mean, like, for example, like a ferry ticket from Tatola to St. Thomas is what, $50? Before you even get on the plane to leave Beef Island, you have to pay $50 departure tax. That's not even your ticket.
Yeah.
So like, that should show you how much more expensive it is. Yeah. But at the same time, it's a control thing in a sense, because you can limit a lot easier how many people come in on a plane at a time. Right. Then you can limit the ferry. And then the ferry ports are also very small ports of entry. Yeah. There's not really adequate spacing, I think, to handle a good set amount of people, and then in the event have to quarantine somebody, or you know what, you check what I'm
No, I
saying?
feel you.
It just might be easier in a other point of view just to do it through the airport.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have to remember Port Authority still been making money through this pandemic because ships coming in to bring in goods and stuff, and customs and things have to charge duties and thing. The airport's basically been shut down. Airport Authority balling brooks.
Yeah.
So if you give airport this little head start, in a sense, it might help boost the economy in a sense too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good
Versus
point.
how
That's a good point.
the ferry terminal might do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. Just because, I guess the other alternative would be shelter quarantine, and I guess, a lot of people mad at the fact. Well, I guess we know what they're gonna do for locals yet. I don't know if it's this. I don't know if it's the same. If it's gonna be the same thing. I'm sure it won't be. So I guess we probably, to be fair, we might be reacting before we have the full story. Because they might make it way different for locals, and then we might be cool with it. Because I cool with a tourist having to pay for their own COVID test and worry about all of that stuff. Because I mean that's part of the buy-in to come into a country and potentially put us at risk. So I cool with that.
Yeah, I mean, you wanted to be here.
Exactly. So
this is
that's
what it takes to be here.
and I cool with that. And like you said, for the economics, it helps us kind of get back because we charging for, there's an upcharge now, so that helps us catch back up economically, at least a little bit. So interesting perspective. I definitely see your perspective, and you even give me something to think about, to where it's like just looking at other countries and what the extreme could be. We ain't at the extreme. We somewhere in the middle. So is it that bad? And it kind of is what it is, and it's like, what's the other alternative really? Because I don't have a better alternative necessarily.
That too, like I've seen a lot of people complaining, right, especially on Facebook, but not many of them are offering solutions too.
Right.
And then some of the people are offering solutions, right? I would look at these solutions and be like, well, like this is like the simplest form of the solution, Like you saying this, it's the way how you saying it, it's a lot easier said than done.
Right.
Like on paper, it looks really good, but like when you start to get into details and actions and stuff, like how effective is this really going to be? And then we have to understand at the same time too, it don't have no guidebook to this pandemic.
That's facts.
We kind of all doing this at the first time together, you check? So like we're gonna have to try some stuff and then see what kind of works and then make adjustments as we go along.
Right.
And like I said, I don't 100% agree with everything, but my only main complaint has been that we should have been doing this in September and not December.
Yeah, because we probably would have perfected it by now.
Exactly. We should have been past this point already.
No,
now is when we should have been, like,
because I mean, literally we're weeks away from the opening at this point. So is we're gonna kind of have to figure it out while it happening, which is unfortunate. So I feel that
the reason too why I think September would have been better is because that's when our tourist season is closed. A lot of people don't even realize this, but the BVI's tourist season closes in the summer, and that's because tourists come here because they want to escape the winter. So during the summer, like September, August are the slowest months in the BVI. For example, Anegada, that's the one time, those 2 months is the one time a year when the restaurants close down because there's not enough tourists to keep them open. The yacht harbor is empty. You're lucky if you see one yacht for the week. And even the airport, we might not get any flights a day. And we, a customer, probably getting maybe 10 flights a day.
Right.
So it's like, we could have opened then when we had not as many people coming in.
Right, it would have been manageable.
It would have been manageable, and then we could find the errors while it was manageable.
Right.
Figure out like, okay, well, we have only 50 people coming in, and we figure out that this specific method doesn't work for us. Like, it was kind of hard. We were struggling to do it with 50 people. We need to find a more efficient way to do it, because when 200 people coming in, obviously if it didn't work for 50, it ain't gonna work for the 200.
Right, right.
But now we open it in December, which is the heart of winter, when everybody and them grandmother, which is actually one of the busiest months for the BVI, it's
Right.
December, January, February is like the three busiest months. And we're gonna have to deal with this big influx one time and try to figure out the errors as we go along with so
Yeah.
many people at the same time.
Right, and that's when people want to come home who live away too. So
That too, December is full of holidays and
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's my biggest complaint. We should have been through this stage already.
no, I think that's a good point. And then one of my issues too is I think we're running away from the fact that at some point we're gonna have to figure out how we live with this thing. I think we all waiting for this vaccine or this fix it that ain't coming anytime soon. So I think we're running away from the fact that we have to figure out how we live with this thing and prepare for them spikes that are almost inevitable. So whether that mean more ventilators, whatever that means, infrastructure wise, I think we unfortunately seem like we running from. It's almost like we working to keep the case number down, which is a lot harder to do rather than preparing for a spike. So that's part of my issue too. I hearing about, okay, we've been in this thing, it's been 9 months now, however long it been since this thing has really gotten bad, right?
You're close to
There's
9 months, about
close,
seven.
yeah, 7 or
Seven-ish?
8, right? So
Yeah.
so far there's been no real slowdown. There's been the ebbs and the flows. There's been no real slowdown, and there's no real sign of a slowdown.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so long that you can suppress the economy or keep an economy closed to a certain extent. So I think the focus now has to be, and this is in every country, has to be, okay, it's looking like this might be what the flu used to be, because the flu at some point was a pandemic before we figured it out. So it's looking like this is going to be the next flu for the next however much years. We figured out how to live with the flu. We will have to figure out how to live with this. And I think that needs to be a large, not the main focus, but a large focus for other countries, us included, because
I agree.
we make money off of people coming in and out, so
Yep.
that's just the reality.
I think, like, this is some conspiracy type shit, but I think that when like these pandemics first start, right?
Mm-hmm.
The countries do their best to try and keep it as contained as possible so it doesn't become an outbreak, right?
Right.
And then once it does become an outbreak, once the countries fail, because we failed to keep it from becoming an outbreak, the entire earth, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Once it fails now, it becomes this game of, okay, but are we making money or aren't we making money? And when I say we, I'm talking about like the 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at like Amazon, like Jeff Bezos and all those rich people, they've been getting richer during the pandemic. And I feel like those are like some of the reasons why we continue with this specific approach instead of, all right, this is going to be the next flu, let's figure out how to live with it. Like, no, let's instill fear into the people, let's keep the lockdown, let's keep the control, we can keep the curfews, we can do this, we can do that, because one, it's making the rich richer, and then two, it gives government control that they didn't have before.
Right.
Like, when a government puts a curfew in place, they effectively control what's going on. Crime goes down because everybody's home. All the nuisances go away because everybody's home. So I feel like they kind of try to stretch it for as long as they can once it gets to that point.
Yeah, I mean, and especially in this country, because we're in a political year, obviously. So I feel like a lot of things have been used as a political pawn. When you look at the stimulus situation in this country, you know, the one reason that a lot of people who are struggling, like there are people literally struggling who could really use. There are people who don't need the stimulus check, but there are people who could really really use the stimulus check, but it's been held up because of political games. And that's sad, and that's the part of capitalism that's unfortunate sometimes. Where everything becomes about control and the dollar. When the people should be put first. And I guess in some ways that's where I respect our government, because the people have definitely come first this whole way. You know, because if not, the economy would already been open and then they wouldn't care, but every decision is based upon or made around the people. So I could definitely respect that to a certain extent.
Well, I think our government has taken advantage of the control aspect also.
Oh yeah, you think so?
Because I feel like there's no reason for us to be on curfew right now. I think we still are on curfew. I think we're
Yeah.
on like from like 12.
Yeah, I think so too.
It don't have no reason we need to be on curfew right now.
Okay.
Our curfews, all of our curfews have lasted much longer than they needed to. And then a lot of stupid laws and bans are put into place, like when they banned scooter riders and bike riders.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah, so I have a theory on the curfew. So my theory on the curfew is I think it's more of a mental thing than it makes sense on paper. Because when you tell people, hey, you have to be in the house by a certain time, they realize that, oh, this is still something serious that I need to be thinking about. And let me give you an example of that. So when they had removed the curfew, remember that Friday? I forget, this was like a few months ago. It was on a Friday, on a payday on a Friday. They had lift the curfew.
Mm-hmm.
They either lift it or they had changed the time. I think they might have lifted it. I think. Don't quote me. But this was like a few months ago. And people went crazy that weekend. Everybody won a boat. Everybody was at the bar. Everybody was at the house party. And I get, we humans, we get a little bit of freedom. We want to go back to normal. But I think that's where the curfew comes in, because it's a mental thing. Because one thing that I realized when they lift the curfew, we had people tweeting, oh, we COVID free over here, this, that, or other, boom, boom, boom. When that's a crazy thing to say. The reason it's a crazy thing to say is
that lasted 1 week.
right. Literally, probably not even that long. So the reason that's a crazy thing to say is because the testing numbers weren't to the point of where you could even sit at, and they're still not even to this point. So the curfew, I believe, is to keep that mental thing up here on the people, to where the people stay. I mean, it's a little bit of a control thing, I guess, based on, but I think it's a control thing to where it's to stop the people from hurting themselves. Because
that's actually a really good point.
Because when they got free on that Friday, the people them sure that they had no control, and I get, but they went wild. And then you had people smuggling in, you had people at bars, several cases popped up. So I think that's part of the curfew more than to make sense. It's more of a, the people have to realize that this is still something to take very seriously, and because we don't have an active case, that don't mean that there aren't cases.
Fair enough. Very fair enough. That's actually a really good way. I never thought about it that way. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I was probably the only person in the whole BVI that had like lockdown.
Oh yeah, like lockdown.
Yeah, I had love lockdown. Like if they tell me like we're going back on lockdown right now again, I'd be like, shoot, okay. Because like since this whole pandemic stuff is like, I've been home anyways, right? Mm-hmm. I had to catch up on my work. I get to spend time with my daughter. Catching up on all my TV shows. I feel like I have like all this time in the world where I get to record my podcasts. I get to make my videos for YouTube. Right. It's in a sense kind of made me a little bit more creative, because I don't have the freedom to go outside and do my usual videos. So now I have to come up with an interesting video in the house. But then, at the same time, it's like, I've been getting work done because I do graphic design too. So like, I've been able to catch up on all my orders. I do photography too. So I've been able to edit all my pictures and the videos and everything. It's like, and then I just like I like my house.
Yeah, no, I relate for sure.
My house is cool. I have AC. I have a TV. The
Right.
internet works. I mean, when I say works, I mean like BVI works. I'm talking about like it all that good. But
Right.
you check what I'm saying? Like I said, I
Yeah,
get to
no.
chill with my daughter and watch her grow. And yeah, I love being home.
Yeah, and I feel that to a certain extent, especially early on. I mean, it got old for me really quick, but early on, because my life wasn't as on the go, it felt good some days to just come home and not have anything to do, to actually have some weekends where I wasn't working, like, because that ain't normal for me. Like usually 7 days a week, I at it, but during the pandemic, a lot of weekends I ain't been having nothing to do, so I actually been able to sleep in stuff that I haven't done in like 10 years, so that's been kind of cool because in a lot of ways I felt like I needed that. Like I felt like I needed to pump the brakes a little bit. So, you know, I always say when having conversations with people that, when we look back on this, we'll see that there was things that all of us were able to at least take from the pandemic and say, you know, while it wasn't the greatest time, while it sucked, you know, I needed that. I needed time to invest in my craft. I needed time to sharpen my skills. I needed time to start my podcast, to, expand my graphics company. I needed time to just relax. I needed time to just sleep. I needed time to just do nothing. And I think that's important also.
Very true.
Yeah, man.
Do you think again we can wrap it up just now, but
No problem.
got just a couple more questions.
Mhm.
Do you think that the world will ever go back to what we knew was normal?
At first, I said no. But the more that the pandemic went along, I think we will. I think it might take a while to get back to the normal that we knew. I mean, it's gonna be the normal that we knew with a little asterisk on it, right? But I think we've been doing life how we've been doing life for so long that a year away from that life, I don't think it's gonna be make a big difference. Because when I look at how quick, like even here in Atlanta, this is one of the states where there's a mix of people. So there's the people who still taking the pandemic very serious, and then there's the people who just don't care. So there's literally people in the clubs like normal, in the lounges like normal. Look how quick them people were able to go back to life. So I think just the innate human nature of us, we're gonna get back to some sort of normal. I mean, I don't know. There's definitely going to be a percentage of people who might never hug a person again, who might, but I think for the most part, we've been living the life that we've become used to for so long. Literally, I am 27 years old. I've been living my life the way I have been, where I'm interacting with people, not wearing a mask, all this stuff, for 27 years. So a year of wearing a mask, distancing from people, is not going to erase the last 27 years of my life. Yeah, I'm going to think about it. Yeah, it might change things slightly, but for the most part, my opinion is no.
I'm kind of torn between. I honestly don't know because on one hand, I feel like we stubborn. So like you said, like we accustomed to this way of life. We want to continue this way of life, right?
Right.
But on the other hand, I look at places like Japan, right?
Right.
And I learned this probably last month or so. Something recently I learned. When the Spanish flu hit Japan, the Spanish flu only lasted in Japan for about 3 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. Oh no, I think it was 2 years actually, my bad. I think it was from like 1928 to, oh no, sorry. It's actually 1918 to like 1920 or something to that effect. It was like exactly like 100 years ago.
Gotcha.
When it hit Japan, they all started, wearing masks and social distancing and all that kind of stuff. And then I learned that this pandemic hasn't really affected Japan to a huge extent like it has other countries. Like Japan hasn't had like any lockdowns or stuff. They haven't shut down the economy. Everybody's still walking and stuff. And that's due to the fact that because from 100 years ago when they had the Spanish flu, it has been a custom to them to just wear a mask. Like it's a normal thing in Japan that when you feel sick, you put on a mask, or most people just
Interesting.
wear mask on a regular.
Yeah,
So
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it until last month. So like in Japan for 100 years, they've already been wearing mask. Like you just wake up and you'll have a runny nose, and they'll be like, oh, I gotta wear my mask, and they'll just wear their mask everywhere they go.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Very interesting, and their way of life pretty much hasn't changed.
Yeah.
They haven't had to
They
go.
were already basically living
Yeah.
this social distancing and masking up life, I guess. Well, probably not social distancing, but
Yeah,
masking up life.
the masking up life. And so like I keep thinking we stubborn. We gonna want to go back to where we was. But
Yeah.
I mean, this Spanish flu only lasted in Japan 2-3 years. And for the last 100 years, this is their way of life, and they ain't
Yeah.
changing it no time soon, especially not after now. They
Right.
probably gonna double up on it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, I do think certain things will change. Like, I don't think New York will ever be the same again. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I don't feel like New York, because so many people have left, like, New York. I don't think New York will ever be the same just because that way of life is just like the opposite of everything that you're supposed to be doing during a pandemic. So you can't really social distancing
Facts.
because of their transit system. The air quality isn't good. There's just so many stuff about New York. So I think like like certain things will never be the same. Like I feel like living in New York and life in New York will never be the same. So I do think that we will feel like ripples like 5, 10, 20 years from now. We will still feel the ripples of like things that we've learned, because I feel like and the one thing I love is I feel like we're gonna all be a lot like cleaner and hygienic going forward. Cause
True.
there were nasty people who didn't used to wash their hands like that. There was all types of stuff. But I feel like going forward after this, we're gonna probably not get sick as much with like flus and what's not.
From a genetic standpoint, that could actually be a bad thing,
True enough. True. No, that's very true.
Because without sickness and without germs, we can't build immunity.
That's facts. That's facts.
So if everybody clean and ain't got no more germs and everybody getting sick, then that one person just happened to get sick, then we all fucked.
No, that's facts. And and that's one thing that I think about too. What gonna be the long-term effects of all this hand sanitizer, all this washing our hands, all this fumes from these Lysol products? I think about that all the time. But I do think we're gonna be more mindful of like just washing our hands. How like just coughing in public, like I think we're gonna be a lot more mindful as we should have always been. So I think there will be some positive ripples that we'll always carry with us, and there'll be some negative ripples too, and there's gonna be a large percentage of people who gonna be like, yeah, there's certain things I just ain't doing. Like I never ride in public transit again. There's gonna be people that gonna say I am never riding public transportation again. But I think for a large percentage of people will fall into normalcy relatively quickly. Like within 6 months after the pandemic is over, I think a large percentage of people will fall into just normal life again. Because when I look at how quick people have been able to do it, like already, it just shows me that okay, yeah, people are ready to be back to normal.
One last question, and then we can wrap things up. So, how do you feel about like Americans? Like you heard of the term Karen before, right?
Yeah, Karens, yeah.
Okay, so how you feel about these Karens going out and don't want to wear a mask? Like they're just arguing down the people in the stores and they just don't want to put on their mask.
Man, I think it's so selfish. I think one of the most beautiful things about this pandemic, for the most part, has been how it's brought us together. It's crazy how something that we had to social distance for has brought us together, whether it be communicating like this, over video, over Zoom or whatever the case may be. It's crazy how we're communicating more than we used to be when we had access to each other in person. And that has shown a selflessness in a lot of people. So I feel like the Karens now who want to go out into the wall, and you could have your beliefs. I feel like everybody is welcome to their opinion of the pandemic, of the mask, and all of that. But I think it's a respect thing, and it's about not thinking about yourself. So when you go to somebody business and they say that you have to wear a mask, it's not about you in that moment. They told you that you have to wear a mask to come into their business. And then it's about the patrons in that business. So you might have an older person in there too who are at a higher risk than you. And because you wanted to be selfish and not wear the mask because of whatever your beliefs might be, putting them at risk. So I think it's crazy. I think it's very immature, very irresponsible, very selfish. I was watching this video on Twitter. It was this celebrity, this pretty celebrity woman. And she was just talking about how she went to a store, I guess, and they say you have to wear a mask, and she put on the mask, but she pull it down below her chin. But technically, she have on the mask, and I'm just like, yo, like, what are we doing? Like, you like, you know good and well that when they say that you have to wear a mask to come into their business, that means that you wear the mask the correct way. Why you on Twitter or Instagram arguing that, oh, technically you had on a mask? That's ignorance. Like, I again, you could have your beliefs. You could have your beliefs, but if we're talking about being selfless, considering your neighbor, which we all should be doing during a pandemic, you wear the mask regardless of how you feel about it. Regardless of how you feel about it. So to all the people and the Karens out there who want to do what they want to do, just think about your grandparents, your parents, anybody who is of risk in your family who could go out potentially and be exposed to somebody like you who aren't thinking about other people, and then boom, they get a virus from them. They are now at risk to potentially lose their life because somebody wanted to be ignorant, immature, and selfish. So think about you potentially doing that to somebody else and how you would feel in that person's shoes. So, I think, man, like, more than anything right now, we have to think about our neighbors. We have to think about our neighbors, because this pandemic has broken down racial barriers, economic barriers, all of that, because we all dealing with the same thing. And rich or poor, we could all catch it. We could all potentially lose our lives.
Facts. All right, then, man. Any social media plugs you want to put in real quick? Let people know where they can find
Man,
you.
just follow me everywhere at Dontae Hodge, DontaeHodge. That's my social handle everywhere. Follow me on YouTube. I am building a YouTube channel slowly but surely. Just kind of posting positivity, bringing light to situations. Reviewing some of the cool stuff that I get to get my hands on. Kind of showing my life and some of the cool stuff that I get to work on. So subscribe to the channel. Of course, follow Wolfpack, Killa Tooma, Turn Me Up J Cav, the family. We are doing amazing things. What I like to say is amazing things. We have a new project coming pretty soon, hopefully, God spare. So just stick and stay. But yeah, follow me everywhere. I feel like I'm a pretty chill person. Follow me on Twitter. I'm always on there talking smack, cracking jokes, all of that. Yeah, that's it.
All right, then, man. Thank you for being a guest on the podcast. I appreciate you.
Definitely. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, this was a good talk.
For real. Bless.
Yeah, man. You know what? I really enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Not only did we have a productive conversation, I think we were both able to learn a lot from each other, and it wasn't pretty much one-sided. Dante's a pretty cool guy. You guys should definitely follow him, and definitely pay attention to when they're releasing that new album. After recording this, I just learned that like half the world is going back into lockdown again because of the second wave of corona. But yet there's people here that are so angry that we're not letting people in. Like I said, there should be some balance. Hopefully the government figures that out pretty soon. My only complaint is that we're opening in December and not September. We should have been open, but such is life. Anyways, see you guys next Monday.